Ghanaian businessmen who operate in Nigeria are being harassed. This according to a petition filed by Ghana before the Economic Community of West African States. So, a Ghanaian businessman petitioned Ghana's foreign ministry to intervene in a business related incident he was experiencing in Nigeria. And when he petitioned Ghana's foreign ministry decided to investigate the situation in Nigeria. And Ghana's foreign ministry has concluded that Nigeria is harassing Ghanaian businessmen who operate there. So Ghana has asked the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to intervene in the affairs that is affecting Ghanaian businessmen in Nigeria. I'll break down what led to this and how it is affecting the rest of West Africa in this video. My name is Tony. I'm a Ghanaian writer who lives in the US. On this channel, I talk about geopolitics from the perspective of an African. So if you're interested in intellectual conversations, subscribe to this channel. Now let's get right into it. So Sam Jonah is, let me give his right title, Sir Sam Jonah, a knight of the British Empire, petitioned Ghana's foreign ministry that a business he operates in Nigeria is being harassed by the Nigerian authorities. And how are they being harassed? So, Sam Jonah is a very, very respected global businessman. He's actually one of the big Africans on the global scene in the sense of business. I'll tell you more about him later. And he has a real estate operation in Abuja, Nigeria. He have hundreds of acres of land in Abuja that he is developing into prime real estate. I believe his business is called River Park Estate in Abuja. And he ran into some issues with the Corporate Affairs Commission in Nigeria. And here's something I will tell you. As somebody who comes from a family that does businesses, if you operate a business, it doesn't matter what type of business you operate. If your business is big enough, you're going to run into some legal issues. It's part of doing business. So what is not part of doing business is when you run into legal issues, the issue go before the court. The court addresses the issue, and then if you are found to be wrong, actions will be taken against you. But here's the key thing. Sam Jonah and his businesses have been accused of falsification of documents. They said they falsify signatures. They also overvalue the shares of their company and other related issues. This is an ongoing legal issue, which means that they are in court currently. So while they are in court, the Nigerian authorities have started taking actions against Sam Jonah, which is wrong. Usually you wait for the court process to complete before you start taking legal actions against the parties. And so Sam Jonah and his businesses try to get the courts in Nigeria to intervene, and the courts in Nigeria don't seem to be acting. That is why Sam George had to resort to talking to Ghana's Foreign Affairs Ministry to intervene. And so Ghana's Foreign Affairs Ministry also did some diggings and found out that indeed, not just Sam Jonah, but other businessmen from Ghana who do business in Nigeria are being harassed and also interfered with by the government. So the Nigerian government is interfering with how Ghanaians who operate in Nigeria are running their business. Ghana and Nigeria are part of ECOWAS. ECOWAS has a region where people from Ghana have the license to operate in Nigeria. People from Nigeria has a license to operate in Ghana. When I lived in Ghana, a lot of the guys I bought phones from were Nigerians. Nigerians operate in Ghana, Ghanaians operate in Nigeria. It's just the way you do business in West Africa. It's part of the ECOWAS provision. I've done a whole video about how ECOWAS operates. Maybe in future I'll have to do another video that focuses specifically on business. So what Nigerian authorities is doing is against the way ECOWAS is supposed to operate. And that is why Ghana had to petition ECOWAS to act. But ECOWAS have asked Ghana to provide more evidence of what they are alleging against Nigeria, and have asked Nigeria to respond to the allegations that have been made against Nigeria by Ghana. You understand that? Good. And so that is the case as we have it right now. I'll tell you something about Sir Sam Jonah, and then I will link it to a bigger issue. Sir Sam Jonah is the first black man to be the CEO of a multinational mining company. Even before that, in 1996, when Sam Jonah was the CEO of Ashanti Goldfields Limited, Ashanti Goldfields became the first African company to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And then Ashanti Goldfields merged with a British company called Anglo Gold, and Anglo Gold Ashanti made Sam Jonah the CEO. And Sam Jonah became the first black man to head a global multinational company. He turned a single mine in Ghana into a multinational global company. So Nigerian authorities targeting such an illustrious African or have said is xenophobic because it's Ghanaian. But this is happening this week. And this week, Aliko Dangote, a Nigerian businessman who is the richest black man in the world, also came out to speak out against Nigerian authorities interfering with operations of his business. What this tells me is that Nigerian politicians do not understand why businessmen operate and how businesses operate. Nigerian politicians are abusing their power against the operations of businesses in Nigeria. And that is sad because Nigeria is the biggest market in Africa. Like the president of Ghana said earlier this week, if Nigeria does well, Africa does well. If Nigerian politicians are ensuring, taking deliberate action to make sure that Nigeria doesn't do well, it affects the rest of us. That is why I care. I've made jokes in the past that, yeah, it's because I like to date Nigerians. That's a joke. I care about Nigeria because I care about Africa. I care about Africa because that's where I'm from. I live in the US temporarily. I'll definitely go back to Ghana. You understand? So my point is, Nigeria needs to sit up when it comes to treating businesses. There is a reason why Nigeria is one of the countries with the highest number of crypto operations in the world. Because young men in Nigeria do not trust Nigerian government. And it's bad if the people you are supposed to be government over do not trust you. You know, we make jokes that Dangote became a billionaire because he does business with government. So even if someone like Dangote is complaining about Nigerian government, that should tell you how bad things are. I said this before, that Tinubu is a very incompetent president. And it's looking like not just Tinubu's incompetence, but the fact that Tinubu's incompetence have made it that incompetent, corrupt, weak-minded, wicked people are in positions of power in Nigeria is really affecting Nigeria and the rest of Africa. That's bad. Personally, I have a soft spot for Sir Sam Jonah, and I'll tell you why. When I was a kid, I knew instantly that I wanted to operate in the private sector. I want to be a businessman. When I was before I was 12 years old, I wanted to be a politician. But from when I turned 14, I realized that politics is for people who are not creative. And I want to be a creative, rich businessman who controls politicians. So I decided I wanted to be a businessman. How do I pay attention to who is the successful businessmen in Ghana and how can I be like them? One of the people I looked at was Sir Sam Jonah. And Sam Jonah said something which stayed with me. Sam Jonah said he gives money to both of the two leading political parties in Ghana because he's smart. Which means that Sam Jonah is not emotional about who is the president of Ghana. And I was maybe 14, and I decided from that day, I'm not going to be emotional about who is the president of Ghana. That is why when I voted in 2016, I voted for the president on the ticket of NDC, NPP, yeah. I voted Akufo-Addo on the ticket of NPP. Then I voted Doyo in my constituency on the ticket of NDC for NP. I've split my ticket. And from 2020, I didn't vote. But my point is, I knew that in order for me not to be emotional about who is the leader of Ghana, I need not to be emotionally invested in who is the leader of Ghana. That is because I am not a politician. Because I don't want to be a politician, I don't have to be emotionally invested in politics. I look at issues critically, and I'll tell you how that has benefited me. It's gone beyond politics and business to how I live my life. A lot of my friends, if you ask them what is my best quality, they'll tell you Tony is a very objective, logic-driven person. That is because I decided I'm not going to be emotional about things like politics. It has affected how I operate the rest of my life. If I'm heartbroken, I cry about it and understand that. And then I cry for a few minutes, few hours, few days. But when I'm done, I look at the issue critically and then move on from there. You understand? And I'm not asking you to do that. That is what I have decided to do with my life. And so that came from Sir Sam Jonah. And that is why I respect him as a businessman. That's why the government harassing him is a very, very sad moment for me personally. That's why I'm calling this out. All right, I think I'll probably make another video to talk about the issue that involves Aliko Dangote. All right, subscribe to my channel if you're interested in intellectual conversations. We'll talk later.